Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 47 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard, and if you've been a loyal listener, welcome back. We have much to get to today and not a lot of time to do it. We have 5 sections that we'll get into: a general overview of the NBA this week, and our usual highlight, lowlight, random stat, and game of the week. Let's get to our content for the week. There's trouble in paradise for the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler has officially requested a trade. The Butler drama in Miami has been an ongoing saga. We discussed a few weeks ago how NBA insider Shams Charania said Butler was open to a deal, but his agent denied it. On Christmas Day, Charania reported the 35-year-old preferred a trade before the trade deadline. Heat president Pat Riley countered the next day by saying the team was not seeking a trade, and then this week the trade request came through. Then on Friday, the Heat suspended Butler for 7 games for conduct detrimental to the team. The National Basketball Players Association, or NBPA, called the suspension excessive and inappropriate. They added that they are filing a grievance to challenge it. What a ride for the Heat. Butler has been the heart and soul of the team since his arrival in 2019. Wherever he goes, he'll make an impact. Speaking of which, the NBA announced punishments for the brawl at the end of the Rockets-Heat game last Sunday, December 29th. Near the end of the game, as the ball was being inbounded, Miami's Tyler Hero and Houston's Amen Thompson wrestled each other to the ground. Players and coaches raced over to prevent the scuffle from going any further. Both teams faced ejections. For Houston, Thompson, Jalen Green, head coach Ime Udoka, and assistant coach Ben Sullivan were tossed. For Miami, Hero and Terry Rozier were ejected. What's funny is that Rockets guard Fred VanVleet was tossed a few moments earlier for accidentally bumping into the referee. The referee took it as intentional. Yeah. Regarding Miami's punishments, Rozier was suspended for 1 game. Hero was fined $25,000. For Houston, Thompson was suspended for 2 games. Green was fined $35,000, and Udoka was fined $50,000. Emotions get the best of players from time to time. We're all human. Thankfully, we don't see any incidents like the infamous Malice at the Palace between the Pacers and Pistons anymore. Go watch it on YouTube if you need a visual, because oh boy, what a event that was. Finally, the Chicago Bulls will retire Derrick Rose's jersey next season. Rose played 8 seasons in Chicago before bouncing around the league. With the Bulls, he became the youngest MVP in history at 22 years old. However, an ACL tear in the 2012 playoffs derailed his career. While he was still a capable scorer later on, his pre-ACL explosiveness was never the same. Rose retired in September after being waived by the Memphis Grizzlies. This episode is entitled 180 Degrees. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? Let's go to our highlight, the San Antonio Spurs. Picture this: a young team making a sneaky run in climbing the standings, especially with a superstar on the roster. I'm talking about the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are 18-18 and 10th in the Western Conference. After a stretch of 22 straight postseason appearances, San Antonio has missed the playoffs for the last 5 years. But they might be aiming for a comeback. Victor Wembanyama is the guy in San Antonio. He's averaging 25.6 points, 10.8 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 1 steal, and 4 blocks per game. Yes, 4 blocks per game. Against the Nuggets in back-to-back contests on Friday and Saturday, Wemby averaged 27.5 points, 20.5 rebounds, and 3 blocks. There is a reason this man has Alien as a nickname. Even though Chris Paul is nearing 40 years old, he's still a reliable point guard. Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson have been constants for San Antonio in recent years. Stephon Castle has been quietly making a Rookie of the Year campaign. And don't forget the Spurs are under the direction of interim head coach Mitch Johnson. Greg Popovich is still recovering from a stroke he suffered in November. If they can hover around the 7th or 8th seed in the play-in tournament, that would be a good first step in the Spurs' development. Their next game is tomorrow, Wednesday, January 8th at 9:30. They will be in Milwaukee to play the Bucks. Let's go to our lowlight, the Golden State Warriors. Stop me if you've heard this one. A team that probably wasn't going to make a deep playoff run starts the season strong before falling back to reality. Hello, Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are 18-17 and tied for 8th in the West with Minnesota. They've had an interesting season given they opened 2024 with a 12-3 record. Sharpshooter Buddy Hield looked like the second coming of Klay Thompson for 5 minutes. The clock struck midnight. And you know what's hilarious? Fans have figured out what's called the Buddy Hield cycle, and it goes like this. Gets traded, balls out for 10 games, new fans question why the last fan base didn't want him, shoots them out of games and plays no defense, rinse and repeat. And honestly, it's not that far off. They acquired Dennis Schroeder from Brooklyn a few weeks ago. His numbers with his new team, yikes. Golden State is led by longtime guard Stephen Curry. Curry, who will be 37 in March, averages 22.5 points, about 5 rebounds, and 6.3 assists per game. Veterans like Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins are still there. Green can be a glue guy for handling the ball as a forward and his defense. Wiggins can give you about 17 points per game. Golden State is leaning into the youth movement with players like Trace Jackson Davis, Jonathan Kuminga, and Brandon Podziemski. Nonetheless, even Curry stated that his team is, quote, very mid. For those of you maybe not up to date on our slang term for these days, mid meaning very middle, average, whatever. He and Green aren't in their 20s anymore. We'll see if Golden State can pick things up or if they'll make calls at the trade deadline. Their next game is tonight, Tuesday, January 7th at 10 o'clock. They will host the Miami Heat. Let's head over to our random stat. Sometimes a change of scenery is all it takes for an athlete to put up a career high. And if your name is next to a Hall of Famer, that's a plus. New York Knicks center Karl-Anthony Towns is averaging the most rebounds per game by a 25 points per game scorer since Moses Malone. Malone's last time averaging 25-plus points and having the most rebounds per game was in 1981-82. He averaged a career-high 31.1 points and a league-leading 14.7 rebounds. This was the year before he was traded from Houston to Philadelphia, earning him a championship with the 76ers. Towns is scoring 25.3 points and grabbing 14 rebounds per night, the latter of which is first in the NBA ahead of Sacramento's Domantas Sabonis. Towns is putting up a career-best 11 defensive boards per game, the only time in his career with double digits in that category, and 3 offensive rebounds, which is third best. Towns' rebounding numbers were below double digits in his final seasons with the Timberwolves. This was most likely due to Rudy Gobert's presence. There's only so many rebounds to go around. However, outside of rebounding, Towns has made a great impact in a Knicks uniform. New York is near the top of the Eastern Conference. As for Minnesota in the West, not really. It's good to see Towns moving the needle for the Knicks' title hopes. Finally, let's go to Game of the Week. And before we get into this week's Game of the Week, I'd like to mention that last week's prediction might have been the closest I've ever come to actually getting the correct score. So last week, we did Grizzlies and Suns, and my prediction was Grizzlies 119-112. The actual was Grizzlies 117-112. Ooh, so close. I'll get it one of these days, don't worry. Anyway, for this week's Game of the Week, let's try the Oklahoma City Thunder at Cleveland Cavaliers. This game is tomorrow, Wednesday, January 8th at 7 o'clock. Holy cow, this game could be a barn burner. In the first of two contests between Oklahoma City and Cleveland this season, with the other being next week, they enter as the top seed in their respective conferences. Oklahoma City is on a 15-game winning streak. Cleveland has won 10 straight, so somebody's streak is snapping tomorrow. The schedule makers gave the Thunder a particularly brutal stretch of games. Over the weekend, they beat the Knicks and the Celtics. Then this game against Cleveland, then the Knicks again. Ouch. Despite Chet Holmgren still sidelined with injury, the young cores of these teams will still be on display. For Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland have detonated on opponents all season. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams are the Lightning to Oklahoma City's Thunder. Get it? Ha ha. If we're going purely on favorites as of now, is this a possible finals preview? You never know. I'm taking the Cavaliers 121-118. And let's see if we get it this time. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on social media. I have 2 X or Twitter accounts and 2 Instagram accounts. The podcast accounts are under @Diehlman_NBA for both X and Instagram. My personal X account is @LarryDiehlman18, and my personal Instagram is @Mr_Sports18. They're also in the description on Buzzsprout, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at halftime. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.